Hi, I'm Julie Blint, an EMCC accredited transformational coach.
Hi, I'm John Polley. Some people know me as JP. I'm a global educator in movement and wellbeing and an identity coach.
So, what are we going to talk about today then?
Well, we're talking all about authenticity today, aren't we? So, just to give people some sort of perspective, you're there in Rome, and I'm here in Perth in Western Australia. We've known each other for longer than we were allowed to mention because you told me that. However, when we met, we were both kind of doing part-time jobs in a department store. And somehow we've ended up in different countries to where we started, and we've both ended up in that field of wanting to help people perform better in lots of like whatever ways you want to call it. I started out in that personal training sphere and ended up in this kind of more kind of holistic human, let's be our best, let's be happy, let's be real place. And I feel like you have too. Like that's where we're sort of coming from. So authenticity is known as many things. Now we're in we've got our coaching hats on today, and we're saying, okay, then, well, what are we talking about? Is it what is it? Is it where our values are aligned with our behaviors, or is it more than that? And then when I was thinking about it just before we came on, I was thinking, well, actually, we've got this kind of label of authenticity, but actually, what is authentic living? You know, what is, authentic movement and authentic diet and authentic environments and all those kind of things as well, right? That's all part of authenticity. And does authenticity equal happiness? So for me, I know when I was speaking to another coach I really admire, um, Bobby Cappuccio, I interviewed him for a different podcast, and we got into this discussion around originating intention and what the question being, um, what do you want for yourself and everybody else? What do you want for yourself and everybody else? And it's like, wow. And I realized I think it took me like 2 years, and it suddenly came to me when I was listening to him talk to his coach on a podcast. And for me, it was to be yourself in the moment in love, as in an environment of love. So it's like be yourself, i.e., entirely authentically you in the moment, right in the present moment. So you're not experiencing any of that thinking about the past or the future. And then in an environment of love, because that's like non-judgment, safe space, all of those kind of things. So authenticity has kind of been something I've been thinking about for a good 15 years, I reckon.
And me too.
And
It was
that,
something very important to me.
yeah, because it's like, but then it's like, well, what is it? So is it? So I'll put this question to you, and you can decide which one is closer, right? Is authenticity your values
Mm.
enacted, or is it more than? Is it bigger? Like, is it your beliefs and your values and your identity all in action?
I'd go and say it's more than that as well.
Mm,
It's like a whole bunch of things. It's like what you were saying as well about the moment. So it's looking
mm.
at what you want from that moment as well, carrying with you the beliefs that you have, your values, and all of those things, and then brought into that sort of presence of okay, like what is it that in this moment feels correct for me as a whole person. But I think like one thing that's important to clear up as well is what authenticity is not. Because I think sometimes when people hear the word, they think it's about like just blurting out whatever's in your head, no matter what.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's not about that. we have to remain tactful at the same time, so on and so forth. So it's not just about like learning to get rid of your filter um, in that way. It is a lot more than that, of that sort of balance between the world that we do live in, and managing to communicate in an authentic, real way, but without causing negative consequences or harm to others.
Yeah, unless it needs to be, because you need to protect yourself or
Mm.
your values or your family or your heart, as it were. I think the thing that people really struggle with authenticity is that it can be the opposite depending upon the circumstances. So you can do the exact opposite of what you've done in a certain situation. So, like you were saying just then, like, well, our words can be harmful or helpful, but ironically, the same words can be in one situation really, really helpful. And by not saying them in another situation, really, really helpful. So someone needs some tough love. They just need to hear a genuine truth, and you want to hit them with it between the eyes for their own benefit because they've asked you, please just hit me in the eyes with the truth. You've gone bang, and it's like seems really harsh to another person who's really fragile and delicate at that point in time. And you can see a very similar situation and that they really need to hear this thing, but they
Yeah.
don't need to hear it then and from
Yeah.
you. Well, then
Mm.
you don't say. So you've done the opposite. But are
Yeah.
you being authentic there? Well, yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Because it's what sits behind your words, what sits behind the authenticity is this set of values, right? So it's like what value is highest on the list. They have to keep rearranging themselves according to the circumstances.
They
So
do, but
it's like kindness is more in oh, actually kindness really was there in both of those, wasn't it?
it is. But this sort of topic's been very much on my mind recently. And I think as well, therefore, we have to look at authenticity as not just for an individual, but like in our connections as
Mm.
well. And like knowing something or realizing something that the other person might need to hear or think about is one thing, but you can't go with what you selfishly believe that the other person needs to hear in that moment of time. You have to make sure that it's the right thing for them as well,
Yeah.
and that they're receptive to hearing it. And sometimes it's really difficult to hold that thing in or let it out in small doses, so to speak.
Oh man. It's so true. I mean, I had a really like hard one this year. So I lost my dad in March, but in the lead up to that, we as a family, he hadn't been told what we knew, which was he's got a stage 4 aggressive cancer, and because he also had Alzheimer's, and it's the potential, my family were the potential of telling him is that he could get really, really stressed and it could make it, what time he has left really difficult. Whereas for me, my sense of kind of justice and doing the right thing for my dad was I really think he should be told. Now, I didn't say anything to dad because everyone else's wishes were that he shouldn't be told, right? But, so that bothered me because it went against my values, right? But the other value is that, I hold love and family very highly in my list of values. So I did that and there's no way of changing things now. So I just have to accept that it was the right thing. Whether I can be sure about whether it was the
Yeah.
right thing, my values were, well, love and family has to be higher on my list of values than kindness and justice, for example, which were also right there too. It was this. So you can wrestle with these dilemmas in really kind of high emotional stakes situations, but at least we are wrestling and we are wrestling with what is the most genuine, true, expression at the time for the good of not just you, but for others as well, you know?
I think from what I'm hearing you say is that authenticity is very closely linked to your values. So if anyone's listening out there and wants to start like thinking about becoming more authentic, would you say like the first step would be sort of identifying what your values are?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so important because the values are what give this like the your actions in the moment, in the circumstances. That's what's sitting behind what is your authentic choice. Like I say, you can do exactly the same thing in two situations, and it can be catastrophic in one and absolutely inspirational in another. So we need to know what's happening, what do we stand for, what are our highest principles of living in order to be able to understand more about our authenticity. But our authenticity really is our our identity as best that you know it. Because
Yeah.
I think for us to explore our identity and who we think we are, who others think we are is different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, then, so who are you really? But so it's like authenticity and identity are really closely linked. But what drives actual actions and behaviors? I do feel that they're circumstantial. So it's very difficult for
Yep.
consistency across time. They're circumstantial and values driven because when I thought about it, it just didn't make sense that I would do the opposite things. Surely I'm authentic, so I will do the same thing but it's not like that because I think when you look at a list of values, it's not even that drives it. It's what order are they in for this situation?
Mm.
Does justice need to go higher here or kindness or whatever it might be that you have? What's the what's the number one principle guiding you in these circumstances in that moment? So understanding who you are, not beyond your values, I think is really,
Well, I was
really,
about to
really
say that I'd
valuable.
like to like talk a little bit more about that thing of identity, like who we are, like what who we want to be in the world, what how we enjoy, interacting with people, whether it be like telling dirty jokes or like different things like that. Because I think one of the a big thing that gets in the way of authenticity is shyness. And when you met me years and years ago, that was definitely one of my issues at the time
Mm.
of, I would say, being authentic was my sort of shyness.
Yeah.
And I had to build my confidence and get over those sort of blocks to be able to feel comfortable expressing what I believe is my authentic identity and who I am. And again, sometimes I do have to modify it, but not be for the other people, but to protect myself. Like, um, I like to tell a dirty joke now and again,
Yeah.
but sometimes I know that if I just go right in there telling like a group of guys dirty jokes, they may get the wrong idea about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that's been a massive one for me, like all my life, especially living in Italy, I'd say. And so sometimes to protect myself, I have to like and it's been those really frustrating things to me because I would love just to be my authentic self all the time. And
Mm.
I find it really frustrating when I have to hold part of me back.
Hmm.
And also like I'm a smiley person. And when I'm a smiley person, people can get the wrong idea about me as well. Like maybe they don't see the depth and the thinking side or the deep side, and they judge me in a different way. And people have said like I should, change in some way. And I've said rejected that because no, I want to be my authentic self. I want to be who I am. If I want to
Mm.
smile, I
Mm.
want to smile. And that's their problem if they get the wrong idea. But at the same time, I do realize that other things like telling those dirty jokes and things, I need to be careful, but to protect myself
Yeah.
in
Okay.
that because it can, get you in sort of deeper trouble, if that makes sense.
I mean, because because I speak at conferences and in kind of I can sometimes have webinars and one or 200 people are in attendance, and I have a sense of humor.
Really?
And it's spontaneous, so I don't necessarily know any jokes. I mean, none of my stuff is scripted when it comes to that sort of thing. But you're right. Like, I think one time someone said to me, "You need to watch your humor because the issue being with humor is that it is everyone likes different types of humor." And it's kind of like another identity marker as
Mm.
well. So they'll all have their own personal perspective on what that type of humor is. So I like dark humor, for example. By the way, if anyone's listening and they like dark humor, Anthony Jeselnik would be my recommendation just to look him up. It's just so wrong, it's hilarious. Anyway, so but if I started telling Anthony Jeselnik jokes, then that would alienate at least half of the audience, right? And yet I'm still me. I'm still the person that they're really liking up until that point. And it's just an expression of my so you're right. Like for me, when I'm speaking, there are certain things that come into my mind, and I'm like, I'm not going to say that. But and then other times I'm like, well, that's already out there. So I'm just going to see how we land there. And that's the thing. In feedback forms that happen after conferences, normally there's one comment. There's one. And I look at that and I go, well, there's 200 positive reviews here, and there's one negative because they were upset by a remark that I said that I thought was funny, and other people in the room obviously thought it was funny because there was a reaction in the room. So, what do you do in that situation? Do you try to eliminate all of them, or do you just accept that not everyone's going to like you, which I think is one of the hardest parts of authentic living, is accepting people don't like you. And then when you get to my age, I've got grey hair in my beard now. So I'm at the stage now where it's like I almost actively seek to create a reaction so that I can find my people who love me. So it's actually more authenticity is the driver to go, all right, then I'm going to find the people that really don't like me. But by doing that, I'm also going to find the people that really love me because there was a thing on it was Diary of a CEO. I think it's Stephen Bartlett's book. And he had the thing, and it was above their door of a marketing agency or something, is it make them feel something.
Mm.
And it was that rather than be like, yeah, they're okay. It's like give them a reaction, give them a real kind of emotional response. And I'm thinking, wow, the easiest way that we can deliver that is by showing more of ourselves. And they can choose, they'll make their choice almost from their own point of authenticity and identity, which is I really don't like that person, or I really, really love that person. So in order to find the people that love you, I think accept that there's going to be plenty of people that don't.
I think you just come at a really good point there, which is like authenticity requires disapproval as well. And because of that, a lot of people hold themselves back because a lot of people have issues tolerating disapproval or feeling socially
Mhm.
awkward and things, which goes back to what I was saying before about shyness and confidence, but also sort of ties into people pleasing behaviors where we adapt
Mhm.
who we are to try to be the person we think the other people want us to be, which can go back to sort of things that we've learned in our childhoods as well. And that can be something really difficult for some people to get over, is that urge to be the chameleon as well and adapt to who you have and try to be likable to who
Mhm.
you have in front of you.
I really fell into that in the early days of my adulthood was like I want to be liked by everyone. It was like that was kind of a real pursuit of mine. And you do realize relatively quick into that journey that it's impossible because some people are gonna hate you just because you're so likable. So it's just like that's, So I think behind what you're saying there is behind authenticity is also courage. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you need a lot of courage to be authentic. So
yeah,
shy people and quiet people can still be really courageous, but just in a really kind of a gentle way. I have a saying around authenticity. It's the pursuit of ease, not easy. So in other words, by being courageous and just living more the way you really passionately believe your life should be lived, you have more of an ease inside.
oh
But
yeah,
externally, it's not. It's difficult. It's not easy. So you pursue ease on the inside, not easy on the outside.
yeah.
And I think that's really that's and courage, you really have to dig and find it sometimes.
But this is another point, and it's something I have fallen prey to. So what I'm about to say is not like, tips or advice for someone to go out and do if they want to be more authentic. But it is something that I have done throughout my life. And that was use alcohol to help me feel brave
All right, yeah.
enough to be myself and to feel more at ease
Mm,
being myself in
mhm,
social settings, as it lowers your inhibitions. And that is something I think I've done right up until like the last couple of years. It's something I'm really watching myself on or trying to like think, okay, you've had enough evidence now
mm.
that people haven't rejected you or haven't like thought that you were like totally crazy or made a bad impression of you by what you said when you were drunk. And my God. So maybe, you don't need that to just be yourself. But it is really, really interesting, I think, how I have noticed that to get over sort of social awkwardness, and I hate small talk as well. So like sometimes I use alcohol to get through small talk, and that is not healthy, but whatever. Um, but then again, with the alcohol, the next day, then you're sort of, as Louise would say, your beer fear. That's sort of where, oh my God, what did I say? Oh, why did I say that? Oh
Mhm,
my goodness,
mhm.
is usually a lot worse as well because it lowers your inhibitions too much, maybe, and you didn't calibrate for the situation. And so yeah, but I realized that yeah, now I can't keep using alcohol in that way in new social settings and things like that to feel more at ease,
Yeah,
and I just have to like trust that, I'm a very funny person who has good
exactly.
things to say sometimes.
Exactly. Exactly. And I can vouch for that. Now, the thing with so you've got social situations, you've got then there's, is there any kind of studies, evidence on well-being and improvements in overall kind of like feelings of ease on the inside? I've checked it out in my time, and like there's some relationship between being more authentic, living more authentically, and increases in well-being. Well-being being like feeling like you have meaning in your life, that you've got satisfaction with your life, improvements in self-esteem, that kind of thing. And there's very loosely maybe suggestive that it improves your mental health. I don't know how it can't personally, but there you go. But also that not living authentically can create stress, can be like hard work. And that makes sense, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Like trying constantly to hide something or not say something different to what you want to say and all that. That's really hard work. It's quite debilitating. And I feel like
Mm.
I think in the extreme end of the case, like you'd end up with chronic fatigue syndrome or something like that,
I
right? It
was
would be
thinking
so
of,
debilitating.
yeah, well, another subject that I think we both like is the sort of link between mind and body.
Mm,
And obviously it can cause chronic pain or other types of illnesses as well if you're constantly repressing your emotions, for
yeah,
example.
yeah,
That can really cause problems in the body. And so all these things like being your authentic self also requires that sort of idea of not just understanding your emotions, your actions, but having the courage to express your emotions, which can be like, I know a lot of people who struggle to in conflict, for example.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they swallow the things, they don't say what was bothering them, they keep them there and they really repress them. On all those things repressed in the body are not going to do good for your mind or your body. So it's kind of, that's a fundamental one. And another thing I realized as well a couple of years ago when I started taking up running
Mm,
was that a lot of repressed anger came out. And that's what I had been repressing to get over like a traumatic or bad situation that happens to
mm,
me and that I needed to be strong about. And so like I kept pretending, let's just say that, I was surviving, I was coping, and I was dealing with it. And then when I felt ready, I found that physical exercise was really good for me. But I just started getting really angry at the cars and like really angry, like about lack of
uh,
consideration, the value of mine. Really angry, like in the supermarket. I was like, oh my God, I thought running was supposed to help me, not make me angry. Why is it making me angry? But it was like getting out all that sort of repressed emotion and things that I'd been holding back as well. But it was when I started to learn as well, like, okay, what am I getting angry about? That signals what a value of mine is as well, if I'm getting angry about that. So I'm getting angry when the cars don't stop at the zebra crossing for me. I'm getting angry when people like don't move and things like this. So I'm like, okay, so if that's sort of one of your values, let's look at that a little bit more and like, and why you're having this angry reaction as well. And so it did sort of go back to, things from my younger self where shyness and things, and I didn't really feel maybe that I had the right to certain things to take up space, let's just put it that way. And so I sort of like contain myself, um, shrink myself, and things like that. And as I started to realize that that was wrong, and my self-esteem and my confidence started to grow, it actually came out as anger in the beginning because I like needed to go through the angry stage, but also maybe grieving like the fact that I'd put up with or tolerated something for so long that I shouldn't have been, or like why angry maybe at myself for doing that to myself for so long. Like where did this belief that I don't have the right to take time in a supermarket queue to pack and
mm.
pay? Why do I always have to be like, oh, I've got to get it in the bag and pay for this as soon as possible? Oh no, no, there's no price on that. Just leave it. I don't want it. And so really had to learn, no, it's fine. And actually other shoppers at a certain point said, it's fine. Like I can wait.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that message came to me from other people as well, which was interesting. But,
Well, there's a couple of things there that I'd love to touch upon. Number one is people and tribe, and the other one is what you feel in your physical body. So if people who are listening really struggle to kind of express how they, concepts that they believe in, their passions, how they think about life, what they really like and don't like, and all those kind of things, I would entirely encourage them to find their tribe. And it's easier than ever now because online is you have access to the world. For me, I've got a community which I built when I was teaching exercise, and I found that I ended up in this alternative kind of space when it comes to movement, which I would actually describe as authentic movement. But I've ended up in this place, and it's not mainstream. I teach it. I've got courses on it, and I did mentorships on it. And everyone for whom the mentorship resonated, they're like, "Oh my God, I found my people." Like they've got this kind of tribe of people who just think differently or alternatively. They're also all a bit different, like in terms of they don't fit the pigeonhole of exercise coach, for example. and they found a home in my community because I was the community of, misfits or whatever you want to call it, but we're all alternative. We all kind of, so finding your tribe, then everyone was able to grow as a result of this space that they could occupy with these people, that where they didn't feel like the weirdo. Even better than that, their weird was celebrated. So, so they weren't weird. We were a bunch of misfits all celebrating each other. That's really, really powerful. So because in order for us to be vulnerable, we have to have some kind of safety behind it. Up to a point, there's going to be risk in vulnerability no matter what. So for you to be vulnerable and show your authentic self, you need some kind of safety net. And that safety net is tribe, and tribe is probably better for you than alcohol, right?
No, no, I know that, and there's something I've really struggled with all my life, though. So since from when we met each other, I had already
Yeah.
had like a childhood that required me moving different countries, different places, and having to fit in and integrate. And that was already true when we met. And then I've
Mm,
gone on to move like internationally and things like that. And the more I moved and the more I became more authentic, because it's easy when you go out from your, you can say in one way, comfort zone, but in another way, it's like where you were born and brought up. When you move out of that, you reflect what is really yours and what came from the society and culture around you. And because I moved to several, I started to like, oh, that's me, or I like that. And it became more authentic. And one of the other interesting things related to that is the whole question, where are you from? Because I have no idea how to answer that question.
mm,
But people tend, for some reason, to get offended when I say, I don't know. Or when they say, where were you born? And I say, it doesn't matter, I lived there 0 to 6 months. They don't have a good reaction to it. And like some people used to say to me, like, why can't you just give them an easy answer? And I'd be like, well, that's not authentic
mm.
to me, because it would be telling a lie.
Yeah.
And I don't like to do that. Like honesty is one of my values. But the other than that is like, okay, they feel uncomfortable with my answer. That's their
Mm,
issue,
mm.
not my issue. But
Yeah.
from what I've said, from meeting somebody like me, well, maybe they can sort of reflect and think, oh, all right, there's, maybe like there are people in the world who have a different experience or don't experience a sense of belonging in the same way as I do. And maybe there is
Mm,
another way to create belonging, because a lot of the messages we get from society is always about family and how we should, have strong family connection or strong family ties. Now, not all of us are blessed with a wonderful family. And when we're hearing that message of the importance of family all the time, well, actually, it makes us feel bad. And so if we're supposed to have these, close connections with our family, and you're, all your life, well, that's not necessarily beneficial for a lot of people. So beyond that, it is that thing of moving around, though, makes it more difficult to find your tribe, because you become more and more different from people around you every time you move and every time you change. And that is definitely something that I have really struggled with. Like making that connection with a person who's never left a small town or been brought up with the
mm.
traditional values and things. And when you're surrounded by that, then yeah, you absolutely feel like an oddball. And what you
Yeah.
said is correct as well. Like through the internet, it's easier for like for us, for example, from
Yeah.
Australia to Italy to keep in contact. Um, but at the same time, nothing, I think, replaces physical contact. Don't
Yeah.
take that the wrong way. But like being in person with someone, it is different. And that is something that I find that I truly miss.
Yes.
And I've tried to come up with ways to change that. And after summer, I'll get back into that, which is, as maybe you created your community, I was like thinking or started to do like workshops. And I also sort of was thinking of doing a sort of alternative book club, because I can never organize a book club because I would be terrible with the pressure of reading something
Yeah, yeah.
by a certain time. But like I came up with the idea with like Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature or something, and you can read a short paragraph together and discuss what that means. So I was coming
Mm,
up with
mm,
ways to create community and ways to attract people that might be more like-minded than me, because I
mm.
tried going to like the language exchange meetups that we have here, or other social networking meetups, but they tend not to be people on my wavelength, we'll put it that way, or things, or they're there for different reasons,
Yeah,
or they like hold me back from my self-development progress. And so I was like, okay, this isn't healthy for me. Also, it's dragging me back into using alcohol for social anxiety, which
yeah,
wasn't good.
yeah.
Um, so I was like, all right, how can I create this healthy community then? Well, if I think of what I enjoy doing, but what I feel capable, so I can't do a book club because it's too much pressure, and that wouldn't be enjoyable for me at the end. But okay, like a short paragraph and we can discuss it. So I'm not the one always like leading everything as well. It can be more
Mm.
democratic. It sounds great. Or like, I'm a coach. I do workshops on things like identity, boundaries, communication, social skills, and all those things can be like useful for people, interesting for people. So maybe they'll come along rather than like, let's go and get drunk in this bar. If there's a reason for it, I'll be attracting a sort of different level of people. Maybe I can find my tribe that way. So that is a project that I'm going to be doing from September here in Rome, but also,
Mm.
not to negate the beauty of online connections as well. I want to do the same sort of concepts online too.
There's so many extra benefits for in-person connection. You're absolutely right in terms of like there's the science is out on that, and we know that. Um, and I mean, there was the study, wasn't there, of in terms of health, and it's called the Harvard study. It ran for 80 or 90 years, and they tracked people from the when they entered college, I think it was 720 people, through to when they died, and they found the number one indicator of longer, healthier living was social connection, good social connection.
Yes.
Shorter
Yeah.
lives were associated with bad
Bad.
social connection, right?
Yeah.
We've got all of that kind of going on, which makes sense. We talked about being ease or stressed inside, which was also either, massively positive, massively negative. In terms of when I looked at that, and I've got a course on brain and body connection, right? So when I was looking at that, the thing that really struck me when I was reading psychology and biology and all of those kind of different kind of papers and books and was that we have these nerve endings in our body, and they're called interoceptors. So we have exteroceptors, which will tell us what's going on about the outside world that we can touch. But interoceptors are free nerve endings embedded in our tissues and our organs, and they tell us. I call it like the all rightness of different areas, right? So if you've got a tight tissue in an area, it will tell you there's tightness there. If you've got
Mm.
in an inflamed stomach, it will tell you that there's this distension in your tummy, there's pressure through there. So it gives you all of this feedback, and our emotions show up in our bodies. And it's our interoceptors that sense the emotions in our bodies and deliver that information to the brain. So, as you can imagine, if emotions are felt in our body, and by the way, if you wanted to look up some great research on where we feel emotions, if everyone
Yes.
wants to look up a study, a 2014 study by Glerian et al., Glerean, and a
Wait, can
heap
you
of
say
others.
that again? Because like I have.
So Glerian, Glerean, and they what they did was they got um, a large number of people. I think it was 740. And what they did was they put them through. a lot of different emotions, and they had to draw on a human outline. Where do they feel the emotions? How intense they are, or how bereft they are of feeling anything if it's gone. So you see where on the body it line lights up. Anger, for example, was classic because it was your fists across your up to your shoulders, across your chest, and then down to the other fist. Well, that makes sense because if you're angry, it's like you've got to be ready to fight. Yeah.
Mm.
So there was this intense feeling there and very little elsewhere when it comes to something like anger. So interoceptors are giving that information back to the brain. So, of course, if we are constantly swallowing down different emotions, what we're doing is we're getting this information and we're not processing it at all. So, what effectively we're doing is we're holding, I call it on clench. So, we're on clench in those areas where we feel that. So, of course, over time, we will have physical markers that start happening, whether it be in organs or whether it be in the tissues of our body. So you can imagine if someone's constantly angry, well, yeah, do they get painful neck? Well, you bet your life they do. Like it's where they're holding all of this tension because they're angry, and they're probably also going to have an issue around that liver area because the liver and anger kind of
Mm.
go together. So you look at all of these things and it's fantastic. But not only that, but there's decision making and um, body budgeting. So, in a book by Lisa Feldman Barrett called How Emotions Are Made, she talks about how interoceptors are linked to the brain, how our feel in our body affects not just decisions that we make, but how we use energy. So, the thing that got me was how we use energy. So, she was saying that the brain is a predictive organ. So at the start of the day, it will predict how much energy we need for the day. So of course, if we've got, oh, they use this much because they're big on movement. They're constantly they've got a physical job and constantly moving. We need a lot of energy for that. They're still worried about their partner, so we're going to need some energy for that. They've got a very
Just to interject here, so my body must have woken up this morning saying, "Oh my goodness, you're going to need a lot of energy if you're talking to John Polley today."
right.
Just
Well, there
saying.
you go. And so it takes it away from everywhere else, right? And then all right, they've got a bad nutrition. So we're going to have to need energy to handle the inflammatory responses
Mm.
that we're going to get as a result of their diet. They're going to get a lot of screen time, which is going to be very debilitating for their brains. We're going to need energy there. So before you know it, your brain has gone, well, this is what's left, or not, as the case may be, right? So um, emotions are very kind of tied into that. So emotions are looked at the same as physical effort. Like it all goes the same. Like I wish I had my t-shirts on. I wear these t-shirts and it says it's not just physical, right? And because there's the interoceptors are every body budgeting region of the brain is entirely linked to the interoceptive network. So the punchline with this is that if your brain deems that the body budget is overdrawn, it needs to draw energy back from somewhere. And the two most expensive things for a brain to do or for a body to do is movement and learning. They're the two things.
Mm.
For those days when you are overwhelmed with emotional stress, for example, and that emotional stress might just be that you're constantly trying to be someone else, right?
Mm.
You're constantly not being authentic. So it will go, okay, then people might be wanting to go for their gym session, have no energy. And they keep turning up every day with their exercise coach. I've got no energy. I've got no energy. And the coach is just thinking, God, they're just so pathetic, right? No, no, no. They're overwhelmed. Their system is overwhelmed. The energy isn't there because the brain has gone, we need that energy. We need to take it back from you because it's a very expensive thing to move. So we need some of that energy back. And why the other one? And then the other thing is learning. So if you're in a expansive place, it could just be an expansive conversation like this, or it can be you're trying to learn, or just cognitively trying to process. Well, that's really expensive as well from an energy point of view. So okay, then let's just make them, we'll just make them a dumbass today because they just can't think properly. We're going to give them brain fog. They're not going to be able to process. They're not going to be able to remember the name of that person that they're meant to remember the name of. They're not going to remember that fact that because it requires processing energy. So we feel everything in our physical bodies that happens in our mental and emotional world. And that is the mechanism that communicates it back and forth with the brain. And it is a back and forth kind of situation. So for me, a lack of authenticity to come all the way back to circle back to what we're talking about will create a problem in body budgeting in terms of energy, which will be another way that it can be debilitating. And it might show up in a really odd thing, brain fog, or I just don't have the energy to move. I don't have the energy to exercise, right? It's because this lack of alignment from brain to emotions to soul to body, there's just nothing there. So it's just so energy expensive that the irony is you're being stopped from living your life purely because you're just not living authentically enough.
Again, they're tied to this because I remember as well, like when you become a coach, you are coached.
Yeah.
And one of the typical coaching questions is like, where do you feel it in your body or something like this? And I
Mhm.
was like, well, I don't know. And and it's weird because I listen to my body a lot in terms of other things. Like if it gives me an illness, if it gives me a sore throat, then I think, okay, what am I holding back? What am I not communicating that I should? And things like this. So I was used to listening to my body a lot or getting ill through stress. But it was when somebody like would say something about like I think the whole topic at that point must have been something I feel like I've lost touch with my intuition.
Hmm.
Um, but I realized as well, like from saying that, is all these like questions, where do you feel in your body is because I've had quite a stressful life. My body is used to being on fight or flight. It's just used to being
Yeah.
activated. So I became not feeling. And so I wasn't feeling what other people feel in their bodies
No.
because, that was just my normal state at that point. And so that was something that really got me interested in this sort of area as well. And then I have talked to some other people, for example, that may say things like they and this ties to the emotional world as well, that they need to do something stimulating, impulsive, maybe slightly, you know, dangerous in a certain way to feel something. But
Hmm.
again, that is a body that's locked on fight or flight, high alert. That
Yeah.
is a body that is constantly trying to manage people around them, for example, and survive in the world and be approved of
Hmm.
in the world. And so
It's
they've
true.
numbed themselves.
And also, what you described was it's basically a cortisol flatline as well. So, in other words, when people are so hyperstimulated for so long, so cortisol is our stress response. It's that hormone that we have. So, what happens is you can literally wear out that response to the point where you flatline on cortisol. So we need cortisol. It's there for a reason. So for example, it helps us wake up in the morning. We get a surge of cortisol and it wakes us up in the morning. Now, people can sleep 8 hours and still wake up and just go, oh my God, I'm just so tired, right? And the alarm's woken them up. But that's because they haven't got their cortisol spike because they've just flatlined. They're just flatlining right down on the deck with their cortisol and their cortisol responses and their natural cortisol. So you're right. Some people do not have an awareness, a physical awareness of what's going on in their body, but it can be. I was going to say it can be taught. It can be felt again, but it just requires them to really tune in like it and it's not easy when you're in that place where you've kind of overloaded systems. It's the same with, people who, maybe they eat too much and they've gone through, this kind of feeling of full that many times that actually they don't that doesn't happen anymore. So they have to, it's literally portioning food so that they can teach their body again to behave normally. It's a tough situation, but again, it's another advert for authenticity, isn't it? It's kind of living according to. Now, I guess the thing with that is what we're saying is that authenticity by its nature is individual. So I would actually say that that goes through to everything. So if people talk about or eating authentically, for example, well, what is authentic for you? I mean, that for most people takes a lifetime to work out. For others, they have a blood test and say, right, these are the things that you shouldn't be eating, and these are the things that, ideally you should. There's so many different ways, but it's also what should we consume, as in, what should we consume digitally? What should we consume environmentally, socially, all of those kind of other things that are going to be that are going to strengthen us, maybe challenge our authenticity to make sure, because it's a constantly moving target over time, to make sure that we're up to date with our own authenticity. Like, oh, just because you've always believed it, do you still believe it now?
That's a very
Um,
important point, though, is
yeah, and I
questioning
think,
your values or your
and
beliefs
that's again working with
and
a
who you
coach.
are, who you
For
want to be.
me, I occasionally get not frustrated, but kind of a bit sad, if anything, that most people haven't done inner work. I know how unbelievably valuable it is in terms of then how you can live your life, how you can live your life more in alignment with yourself, as well as just be better for everyone else around you as a result. But no, but how little is both understood and valued in the sense of, do you understand who you are and where all your kind of, where your behaviors come from? And it's so powerful. If you have a handle on that, it's so powerful for living a successful life. And that I don't just mean, oh, you're going to earn more money. I just mean you are going to, be more of yourself out there in the world. And as the sayings go, there is no one else that can bring that to the world other than you. So you do owe it to yourself, and you owe it to all of us to bring that to the table. Otherwise, we all miss out, including you.
One of the points that I find as well is that when I'm having a very carefree day, in the sense of I am being more my authentic self, when I'm out and about doing nothing, just walking along the street and, I don't know, singing to myself, or just and the energy that I must project, like yesterday. Like
Mm,
loads of good things happened to me yesterday. And I think it was because I was being my authentic self, feeling my authentic self, not worrying
mm,
about what I look like, or, and anything like that. And I noticed that the world reacts better to me when I'm
mm,
in that state. And
mm,
magical things happen to me as well. Like just the way people react or we interact changes. But on those days as well, when I'm feeling like totally negative, and or I'm feeling overwhelmed because I get overstimulated by chaotic, stressful environments, noisy in particular. That's another trauma response, don't worry. Um,
mm.
and and so if I'm feeling all stressed, and I start to like go into a defensive body language pose or facial expression, then the world starts reacting to me in that way, and I'll get that mirrored back to me as well. Though I do love it sometimes. People don't realize what they're putting out there and what they're saying to another person. Like because I'm a foreigner that lives in a different country, Like when I go into a shop, one of the things I really hated and has made me so angry is that before I even open my mouth, they put an expression like on their face, like they're automatically not going to understand what I'm saying. And sometimes that's made me forget what I wanted to say, speak worse, because that's what, I'm getting told whatever you're saying is going to be like, difficult to understand. But my defense to that is every time they did it, I would just mirror the expression back at them. And suddenly they become aware of what they're doing. Like they had no idea what their body was telling the world.
Mm.
And I think that's another interesting one as well. So sometimes we need to like stop and reflect or even look in the mirror
Yeah.
and see what we're projecting out to the world and so see
Mm.
what we're feeling. Um, but again, it goes back to that thing of like, I know people who have seen somebody wearing an outrageous shirt on the street or talked about when it rains, like putting a plastic bag on their head to protect them from the rain. And that they were saying that they didn't feel confident enough because they think that they would get disapproval. People would look at them badly for that. And I'm like, well, I
Mm.
didn't care. I would do it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like sometimes we're so worried about stupid things. Like if it's raining and you want to put a plastic bag on your head, why not? Like,
Hmm.
really, why not? What right do they have to tell you that you look stupid for having a plastic bag on your head? But
Well,
I notice
also,
I do
that's
that
a
kind of
moment
thing.
of courage.
But it's how you deal with it because you put that plastic bag on your head and your face is like, oh my goodness, don't
Mm.
judge me.
Mm.
You're more likely, I put a plastic bag on my head and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Look at me. I'm so stupid. Then people react and they smile at me and they're like
Yeah,
happy
yeah,
with
yeah.
me and things like that, which I find interesting.
So again, it's like that's your attitude, but it's again like that you need that little, you know, you have to just swallow and get over that kind of fear with courage, you know. And you can't show courage without fear, right? So it's worth kind of remembering that you know, I can, scratch my knee or something. It requires no courage to do that because I wasn't scared of doing it in the first place. So you can only truly show courage when fear is present. Fear is your friend when it comes to you being able to, show your mettle, as it were. So where we're at is authenticity is an expression of identity. It has values behind it that will mean that you do different things in different circumstances, but you are still being authentic. That being authentic requires courage,
Hmm.
but in order to find that courage, it might be good to find a safer space, i.e., a tribe of like-minded folk where you can feel safer and you can be vulnerable in a more non-judgmental environment. Even better if it's an environment that celebrates the fact that you're just being yourself
I know, but again, I'll go
along the
back to
way.
that. For some people, I'm sure other people listening out there think it's really difficult to find that magical community. And that's why
Mm,
sometimes what I've noticed as well, that rather than thinking you have to change and find something new, try in low stakes situations or a very
yeah,
small thing, expressing yourself authentically with the people around you, which can be like a colleague. As I said, small stakes. So it could be like the person who works in the shop near your house, the cafe or whatever, like not somebody that is a important person to you, and like test out and see what their reactions are, because I've known people as well through coaching that had been holding their true selves back, in other words their
yeah.
authentic self, and trying to be, thinking it was not going to be accepted or thinking all sorts of different things. But when they tried being themselves with their group of friends, they suddenly got such a positive
Mhm.
reaction from them. But they'd never tried to do it before. They'd never shown that side of themselves before to that group of person. And we were saying, like, your authentic self is not set as one self. There are different authentic selves for
Mhm.
different circumstances, different groups of friends or work,
Yeah.
family. Okay. But at the same time, sometimes we think this group of friends isn't going to like that part of me. So I'm not going to show that group of friends that part of me.
mm,
And
mm,
then sometimes whole groups of friends are wanting to talk about something like theoretical physics, but are not doing it because they think the other person is not interested, or not showing
mm,
their sad side, because they think that their friends are not going to appreciate them being down or something. But the moment they try, they may find your friends do like talking about the same thing that you thought they might not, or your friends are excellent people when you're feeling down, or like your weird sense of humor and stuff. So it is again about not thinking you have to like abandon everything that you have, but it is maybe about like, okay, trying to test, as you mentioned before, test out to see, okay,
mm,
are do these people like this part of me?
mm. And I think there's another layer that you've just identified there, which is actually if really you're struggling with all of it, like do work with a coach, because they will be your tribe, they'll be your non-judgmental safe space, and they'll be your biggest cheerleader. So when I've gone through like probably a couple of stories, number one would be when I left that whole kind of exercise and well-being studio behind just to be full-time in education, mentoring, speaking, writing. I knew that that was going to be a tough transition because what I was doing was giving up a guaranteed income of clients coming in to see me to do this other thing. So I actually employed the services of a friend of mine who's a amazing coach. He's written a couple of books and he's doing a TED Talk very soon as well. And so I spent a lot of money having his help to help me through that transition, a career transition, because I knew it would be quite stressful, and I knew I would probably get really overwhelmed at times and want to go back to the old life, right? So having someone there who was just like, no, no, this is who you are now. Remember, we've spoken about that, and just going, but you can actually do this. And by the way, reach out to me if you're having a wobble that day or whatever. Like, let's just talk it through. So you've got that the support, that having that one other person in my corner, it made me so confident along the way,
Hmm.
because the other way that happened to me is much less enjoyable, which was when I was 35, I lost my mum. And that was my whole life blew up. I split with my first wife within 2 weeks of the funeral. And I'm kind of sat there just going, God, it's just me. What on earth do I actually want? And it was just like, yeah, what do I want? And it was for the
Mm.
first time I've been able to ask this question for myself in about 17 years. So it's like, it's just me. What do I want? And so I decided what I wanted to do with my life, but also I decided that whoever I came across in life from that day forward, they were going to see me. And then if they didn't like me, at least that was fine. But if they liked me and they wanted to hang around with me, they liked the real me, right? So for me, that was like, oh wow. So that I built it from then. But I don't want people to have to go through that kind of experience to finally go, oh my God, I'm down at base level. I've got nothing. I'm completely broken. I need to put myself back together again in a new way. And I genuinely think that working with a coach can do that. It was forced upon me the first time, but it did me so much good.
No, I totally agree with you there. Obviously, as I'm a coach, it'd be stupid not to. I also I also think that coaching is marvelous for the people who are more about sort of moving forward and looking at sort of practical ways to enact or put it in, make it into reality, or to find your authentic self as well. But again, sometimes it does go deeper than that, and you find that a lot of the reasons why you're holding back from being your authentic self, or you realize that you're compulsive people pleaser, it can go back to other sort of things like trauma. And you may need other support along the way, or
Mm,
combined
mm.
support with that. But yeah, no, coaching without a doubt can really help people find that sort of courage and identify small things that they can do, or identify like what is it really them. Because what you're saying as well is like, okay, so you had been married, you had a family, and in that moment of loss you found yourself sort of, okay, well, who am I then? And that often happens, with
Yeah,
partnerships. You get lost in the other person, or in
yeah.
family as well. You get lost in who the family is and what the
Mm,
family expectations, beliefs, and etc., or who the family, your family role, and all of that.
yeah.
Um, so from what I'm hearing is you don't have to wait to something tragic happens, but a question that we all should be asking ourselves is, what do I want? If I were
Hmm.
alone, and if I weren't thinking of all those different roles that I have, or
Mm.
the combined person I am with all these different relationships, if
Yeah,
I am just that person, imagining maybe yourself stood on a nice desert island, like what is it that I actually want? And
yeah,
who would I be if there was no one to judge me?
yeah. And that's a powerful question because I think what is that about the five biggest things that people talk about on their deathbed? And one of them is just, yeah, I just wish I'd done more of, what I wanted. I spent more time with people that I love and appreciate, and they appreciated me. And so it's that whole, you know, I I I try to live kind of as much as possible, no regrets kind of life. And that for me is an important thing because I don't want to get to the end of this one life that I've got, and just go, God, bloody hell, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish, I wish. Um, and if you can just be able to tune in to yourself and what you do, how you enact out there in the world, how you behave out there in the world, there are telltale signs in that, even if you're not being authentic as to who you really, really, really are, because you'll get lost. You'll lose track of time. It's the time when you feel most at ease. It's the time that you have the most fun. These are indicators of like these are connected into your authenticity. But when you think about it, you go, okay, living like authentically, if anyone out there just thinks about who are the people, like the global superstars, for example, who are the ones that they love, like who are the ones that they really have admired over time. You know, when I was a kid, I watched Elvis Presley movies. Elvis Presley, I was like, oh, I thought, like this guy, I don't know what it was,
I
but I
was
was so drawn to him. And for me, it was charisma. I kind of had to work it out as an adult. Like, why was I so obsessed with Elvis Presley when I was a kid, right? And he had this thing that it was indefinable, but it was charisma. He's the most charismatic, like, man I've ever kind of seen. Um, but was I thinking, oh, Elvis, yeah, well, he's like everyone else, so that's why I like him. No, I was thinking this guy is unique and amazing, and that's why I like him. And you go through all your whatever you like, if you love comedy, and it's like, oh, it's Ricky Gervais, or it might be some, but it's just like those people are different to anyone else on earth, and they're really, really obviously different to everyone else, and we are appreciating them more as a result of that. That's authenticity in action, and that's us reacting and responding to difference out there in the world. So don't be afraid to be different, to be yourself, because if you are being yourself, you are going to be different, full stop. So, it should be celebrated.
I'd just like to make a point there as well. First, just very quick side point. Jennifer Lawrence, love her because she's authentic. Emilia
Oh,
Clarke,
she's
love
great.
her because she's
Yeah.
authentic. And they are people I see parts of myself reflected in. And I love
Yes.
them not because they're actually different from me, but more because I see those parts of myself that other people, might think is like too out there or whatever. But I see them and I see, well, I think it's cool.
They're letting
So,
them out
and
there, aren't
seeing
they?
myself reflected in those people, but and seeing in a positive way, and that can give me the courage as well.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think that's important. Other than that, I have never been one for like role models with celebrities or anything like that. But I think it's well what we can do is like look around the world, our real worlds as well. And like you think about who you're choosing for a partner as well, apart from the people who need to get out of toxic cycles or choosing the bad ones. But sometimes what we're choosing, what we like in another person, are the those sort of things that we would like to have more of ourselves, or we would like to be ourselves, which could be, more courageous, more charismatic, more, um, able to tell the types of jokes they wanna and things like that. So you can sort of reflect upon it in your relationships in your everyday life as well. What is it about that person I like? Why
Mm.
is it,
Yeah.
do I like them?
And I think we're all uh, subconsciously programmed to look for the genuine as well. Like, like even my kids now, right? I've got my kids who so my boys especially who are 10 and 11, they will look at YouTube videos and they'll go, "Oh, that's AI." So it has little value in their minds because they know it's not
Yeah.
real.
Hmm.
So if they see an amazing physical feat and it's real, they have a huge amount of respect. They could see something better than that, but it's AI. They still have most respect for the thing that's real. So we're innately programmed to look for the real, and it's why, sometimes people have, bad Botox. We can't take our eyes off it when we're talking to them because it's innately not real. It's not them. And it's so, I feel like we're like chimps when it comes to that. We're just so, it's almost like, oh, just let me, just, what is that? We are innately programmed to look for the authentic. And I mean, one of the things I kind of wanted to say was like, for everyone out there, if you haven't experienced this, then I hope that you do. But for those of us that have, how free do you feel when you are in a safe, non-judgmental, loving relationship where you can just be yourself? How free and amazing do you feel, and how relaxed and at ease and full of innate joy do you feel when you're in that space? That's quite an extraordinary place to be. It's very, very difficult to find if you are never being yourself.
Absolutely. And then people sort of get into their comfort zones as well, where they like shy people in particular act in a total different way with their close friends as they do in the outside world. And then they cling on to those safe spaces. But and it ties into authentic job choices as well, because a lot of
Yeah.
us get dragged into the wrong careers and things because of societal expectations and family expectations. And what the both of us did, for example, of like trying to make a go of it as coaches takes courage to do.
Mm.
But I know that since I quit my full-time permanent contract job and I've tried to make this work, I feel a lot happier doing that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's true. Sometimes if you worry about the unstable income and the ups and downs, and I still get very stressed about that. But at the same time, if I refocus onto why I'm doing this, then I know that I would make the same choice over and over again because I will die if I had to work in like an office
Mhm.
routine, unfulfilling job that didn't try to make a difference. And so pros and cons, nothing's perfect. So yeah, I have to put up with that sort of fear and worry of the instability to put a roof over my head and different things like that. Um, I will, that they're acceptable. acceptable problems for the bigger thing that day to day makes me feel a lot more satisfied and content, and therefore, putting out positive energy into the world and
Yeah.
getting positive things back, which, is authenticity.
And because ease isn't easy. So there are very few things in life that are really worth having that don't involve some form of challenge, hard work, or discomfort.
Yeah.
That's the truth of the matter. So you're choosing your discomfort, and that is another fantastic act of authenticity, isn't it? It's like, well, that's what we're doing. We're making a choice which is fully aligned mentally, emotionally, physically with who we are, accepting that the type of difficult that we are taking on board, we're doing that for a reason. The reward is worth it. And we're happy to take the challenge because A, it will make us better. But B, we choose that. Like it's a very privileged position to be in. And I think we are in a minority because we're choosing the difficult that goes with something that is entirely aligned with what we do.
Mm.
So yeah, it is amazing, and I think I'm feeling very grateful right now, having spoken about this for this long, just going, wow, I there's things that I do almost daily that most people would dream of because, it's finally I've got to this place in life where I'm actually, I'm doing all these things that will enhance my ability to be what I want to be for other people by investing, time and practices and environments in myself. It's a really cool thing. And there's always improvements that we can make, but when you've got a relatively authentic life, that's quite special and very significant. And I do think that as a result, it will certainly boost people's health. I think it will boost
Mm-hmm.
their happiness, but just as importantly, I think it will boost and inspire all of the people around them as well.
Just want to say one more point, then maybe we should try and wrap this up.
Yeah,
If you look at the wall behind me, you'll notice this is the color pink. And this is my new house,
yeah.
and it was already pink.
Mhm.
And originally I was like, oh no, I don't like pink. And now pink keeps following me around. Like it keeps coming up in my life. And I was talking to somebody about it yesterday and was looking at the meaning of the color sort of pink.
Mhm.
And then it sort of brought me to that thought as well of, oh my goodness, yeah, it's true. Because of certain things that happened over the last few years, I've been in sort of like fight mode, like trying to be strong, trying to like portray myself as somebody who is strong. And I've been like hating the color pink because that would sort of be my vulnerability.
All right.
That would
Yeah.
be my sort of letting other people help me, maybe needing other people, letting my
Mm.
defensives down, and things like this. And so I think the universe is trying to tell me that it's time to stop being so defensive and accept that part of me. And this is the sort of bit about
Yeah.
authenticity, is accept that part of me that is vulnerable, that like needs
Yeah.
help, that can give and receive love
Mm.
as well. And again, since finding this place, that message from the universe does actually keep coming up and up and up to me, like finding people who are there to help me when I needed them to be, and feeling comfortable enough to ask, or it being offered. And it's that sort of thing of receiving them. So I've been having this pain in my upper arms as well. And like since like yesterday and this reflection on the pink, it's getting better. And it's that thing of, okay, maybe it is anger, as we said before, probably could
Mhm.
be still got a lot of anger built up, but it could also be that thing of like receiving and
Yeah.
letting down my defenses and not sort of like maybe my heart center has been a bit blocked. It's time to unblock it.
Wow. That's it's a nice little bit of authenticity at the end in that you are showing self-awareness so that you're not in denial or defensiveness when you evaluate yourself. And that's another one of the big signs of authenticity. So, yeah, look at you. Such an example.
I
I
know.
hope everyone's enjoyed that today, and that there was something, even if it was one thing that you took away, hopefully more than one thing, that it was useful. And I'll leave my details with Julie, and you'll have Julie's details as well at the end. And yeah, reach out if you have questions or thoughts, or you want to find out more.
Absolutely.